2030.
Saudi Arabia, the public investment fund.
It's a
There's
big
a lot of
mission.
excitement
It's
around
transformational
NEOM specifically.
change. Every aspect of the kingdom, economic, social, cultural,
The
religious.
2030.
The 2030.
This is the 2030.
Yalla, 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 yalla.
This is the 2030 episode 61. Dr. Hanaa, what's up? How are you? Kay Falik.
Hello. I am good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm in Riyadh right now at the beautiful
Nice.
Ritz-Carlton. Yeah. And I just got back from your hometown. We talked about this off the air, but I just got back
Not
from
really.
a
I would
beautiful...
love to hear actual feedback because you said you went there and I was in I was kind of off the grid, so I didn't hear about your trip. Tell me about
Where
the
were you?
Eastern
You were
Province.
at the Tomu retreat. You can say Tomu retreat, as our upcoming guest on this episode is also a Tomu member, a
Yes,
fellow Tomu
yes.
member. But yeah, no, you're right. I didn't tell you about my trip to the Eastern Province of Saudi
So
Arabia. It was
I'll quickly say I was in Cambridge. I was on the Tumuh retreat. It was a fully immersive experience where I really didn't have much time to look at my phone or talk to anybody. So I'm just back now, actually wearing the same outfit I wore this morning, moderating a session on stage. So I'm literally like fresh in from the train station.
See, now you know the
So
struggle
it's like
of what
an
guys go through.
emergency 2030 podcast recording. So tell me about the Eastern Province from Lucien's point of view.
Okay, so first of all, just add context to what you just said. Yes, you did go dark right when I got to your hometown, and I was
I
like, where
know.
should I eat and what should I do? And then you were just off the radar, and that's fine because I managed. No, I didn't really get to hang out there or do much. I was there for 24 hours, and it was nice. It was really, really nice. I think I texted you, though. I was like, because I got there late, and then I ate at the hotel, which was unspectacular, and you told me that there's another hotel with a very familiar sounding name that has really good food, and I said, well, that would have been nice info to get, and I was out of there pretty quickly. I'm going back, so maybe unless there's another retreat, you might be able to provide some information to
I'll give
this,
you a list of places to eat. I did give you some suggestions of places that were near your hotel before you went, I think. But I don't know if you went
did,
to them.
yeah. No, I
And
got like the
I
Caesar
also-
at the hotel. It was bad. Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, that's not my fault, but I also did. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the Carlton has the best Lebanese food in Saudi. Actually, the best Lebanese food outside of Lebanon because it is made by Lebanese people. It's so good.
And is that the hotel you also mentioned? Is that the same one?
That's the Carlton. Yeah, the Carlton has. I
Okay.
think they're changing the name, actually. I don't know if they already have, but I don't know. Anyway, still the best food.
And what's the full name of the hotel? Just wanted to... Is it the Carlton Al Moabed or is it the Al Moabed Carlton? And are they dropping Carlton and just going with the Al Moabed? Because that's actually
I don't know
not a
what
bad
they're
name.
dropping. I don't know what they're dropping. I'm not. It's
Okay.
not my.
That's not
It's
your...
cousins, not my hotel. But yes, it is
Okay.
the Carlton Al Moabed Hotel, Carlton Moabed, for whoever knows it from the Eastern Province. Not my hotel. Again, not mine.
I know, but I kind of imagine staying there next time, good or bad, and then complaining to you about it. And that seems like something that would be really fun to do. But yeah,
It's
no,
still
I'm in
called
Riyadh.
the Carlton Moabed as
Okay,
of
for now,
today.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is great. Eastern Province was
Wait.
great. I didn't get
Yeah.
to...
So,
Go ahead.
what was your first impression, last impression? What do you want to go back to do? Like, what did you love? What did you hate? What did you
Okay.
think of
So
it?
So it wasn't quite the New York Times 48 hours in location X, but what I really liked about it, I guess, okay, so I didn't really see it. To be honest, there are 3 meetings, then in a car, over the causeway to Bahrain, 1 meeting gone with a little incident in Bahrain. But what I loved doing and seeing there was the Aramco Stadium looks amazing, like amazing. First of all, it almost looks like it's not done, but it looks like it's going to look, which was wild to see because the depictions of what it's supposed to look like is really amazing. And it kind of looks like a dinner or like a breakfast, pastry kind of thing. Would you, I don't know, like a Danish kind of, right? And I don't know if you would agree with that, but it looks like a Danish to me. Or like one of those things you'd get at the 7-Eleven that's like, you really should not eat this. It's just sugar pastry, but that's what it looks like to me. And it is awesome. It is really huge. And I was at an office building that overlooks it. And I was like, do you mind? At the end of the meeting, I literally said this, like, do you mind if I walk to the other side of your office and see this stadium from this view? And they're like, yeah, of course. And it's really spectacular. It'll be the first stadium done before the 2027 tournament, the Asian Games, I think it is. Not Asian Games, but it's the Asian World Cup, I think, is going to be played in Saudi. And it looks so cool. Anyway, that was my favorite part. The low lights were, you weren't there. Aziz wasn't there. So I didn't get any like proper reception, which, I vastly prefer wherever I go. It's okay. But no, it was nice. The weather was great. It was a little hot, but it was not like, intense. But I will be back in 2 weeks or something like that. So I'll give you the full, and I'll go around and I'll get to the restaurants and I'll, whatever. Anyway, we have a good episode coming up, a good interview with Basma Bushnaq, who is a consultant with PWC. She was acquired by PWC, which is super awesome. We were going to ask her about that.
She's a partner at PWC.
She's a partner and was acquired to become partner.
Yes.
So great conversation, super interesting on the education space in Saudi Arabia, very fast moving here. I liked it a lot because I have children at the education age, as you do as well, Hanaa. And there was a lot that I sort of interjected personally into this conversation to find out what I wanted to know. She's great, man. She's awesome.
Yeah. I've known Basma since I was a child, but we just don't really see each other much. So it was really nice to hear her insights from her point of view. Yeah, both of us are in the education sector in very different areas, and I thought that she had a lot of light to shed on kind of the space, the investment space within the education sector, but also just some of the challenges and opportunities. So it was really interesting.
So she's an EP gal?
No, but her cousins are in the Eastern Province. So she'd come, I think, when we were younger to visit, and I'd meet her with her cousin.
Okay. But on the Lucien program where you go to the Sheraton and have the Caesar salad and then you're out of there, it's a different program than that, obviously.
I think there were family members that she was visiting that I knew very well. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, nice to see you again. We are efforting to get back onto our normal schedule, but you have been traveling and it's all your fault. Just kidding.
No.
Yeah, so I'm in Riyadh for the next week, but we will be getting back on that schedule very soon with interviews, deep dives, the whole thing. So thanks everyone for your patience. And should we just get to the interview? Is there anything else you want to?
Did you have any feedback?
Oh, I did. I sure did. Tariq Al-Juraisi. Was that okay?
Yeah,
Tariq
that was
Al-Juraisi.
great.
Hanaa Legal Reforms episode was excellent. All caps, by the way. And then this next sentence is also in all caps. So I'm not going to shout it, but it's a little bit like Trump tweets.
Shout.
But yeah. No one is talking about this. So that was me kind of shouting. If I shouted, I think it sounded bad, but good job, guys. Tariq. So yeah, good job, Hanaa, on your legal reforms. Which I said, that actually was pretty good. And you're like,
surprise,
what do you mean, surprise. Actually? Yeah, surprise. Yeah. So there you go. That's from Tariq.
Amazing.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'm glad
good job with your.
Tariq is right. Not enough people are talking about the legal reforms. It is a big, big story that needs a little bit more coverage. But you know what? That's what we're here for on the 2030. What you don't read in the New York Times and the Washington Post, we've got it on the 2030. So,
and to then contextualize it a little bit into what it really means locally and what it should mean. And, if the New York Times is all the news that's fit to print, we kind of go right beyond those borders and give you a little bit of that, color or whatever that you're
the local
seeking.
Color, right? Like how people are feeling about it as well. But I think that, or also highlighting stories that we know are big that are just not really covered, but they're important. So there you go.
Yes.
I'm glad that Tariq recognized that. So
Tariq like that. And
thanks,
a lot of
Tariq.
people like that as well. But I'm in Riyadh now. I'm here for the next week. I've been here except for my wonderful visit to the Eastern Province. It's been great to be back. It's so good to see people, although I kind of have been a little bit like antisocial. And so I'm trying to work on that. It's about to be a weekend. So, wish me well. But yeah,
Go out
anyway,
on the town. Paint the town
I'm going to hit the
red. I don't know
town.
what
Yeah,
that
paint
really
the town.
means, but do that. So
Yeah, what does that mean? Yeah. Anyway, let's
don't
get to our
know.
conversation with Basma Bushnaq.
All right,
It's fantastic.
Let's get there.
Saudi Arabia is currently one of the most dynamic markets in education globally on the back of course, significant reforms, but also shifts in demand and investment incentives that are making it a hotbed of opportunity. Saudi is the biggest spender in the region on education and the private K-12 education segment, and it is projected to grow at around 14% compound annual growth rate through 2030. Whoa, that's a lot. Joining us today to discuss this and more, Basma Bushnaq, co-founder and CEO of MCon Education, one of the Middle East's leading education consultancies. In 2024, MCon was acquired by PWC Middle East, bringing in Basma and her co-founders into PWC's education and skills practice to help shape the future of education at scale. Basma, awesome. Congrats on your exit to PWC. Thanks for joining us. Excited to talk with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
We're so excited to have you. It definitely, I have stars in my eyes. This is, first of all, a topic that is incredibly near and dear to my heart. But also, I am so inspired by your journey, and you've had a fascinating career journey, working inside the education system, specializing and, kind of leading MCAN education. I'd love to hear a little bit before we start kind of talking about some of the juicy stuff about what inspired you to get into education and kind of walk us a little bit through your career path.
Yes, I would love to. It was actually, the beginning was when I was in high school. So I'm Saudi, born and raised in Jeddah, and I went to a girls' private school in Jeddah. And one day it was my last year of school, and it was a math class, I remember, and I hated math. Still do, unfortunately. And I stood up, and it was so frustrating. And I don't know if you remember, Hanaa, back then we used to get our exams from the ministry. So we didn't know what we were getting. So it was very frustrating, it was difficult. The teacher wasn't very helpful. And I just stood up in class and say, girls, I promise you, when our kids get into school, I will change the curriculums in Saudi Arabia. It was funny enough because even when I graduated from high school, I never thought that I wanted to study education in my bachelor's degree. But that was fate, I guess. It was September 11 also. And I was supposed to go to the States. I couldn't, of course, like a lot of other Saudis who graduated that year. So I ended up staying at the one of the private universities in Jeddah, which is Dar al-Hikma. Now I'm very, very proud of being an alumni of that school. And I decided to study special education. And it was one of the best decisions I've made in life because I was lucky to study something that I was very passionate about. And after that, I also continued then my master's degree in education, but I was specialized in gifted and talented education, so gifted students. And I had a special interest in teacher training, specifically of gifted students. After that, just took one job after the other in the education sector. I didn't say no to anything. I started from being a TA to a special education, a specialist in a center, not-for-profit in Jeddah. And then I was finally contacted by the most prestigious organization back then who cared for gifted students in Saudi, which is Mawhiba, King Abdulaziz and his men Foundation for the Gifted. They were looking for someone to run their programs in the Western region. And that's when I was hired. And just, it was my passion, Again, I got lucky enough. I was working on a job that I was passionate about, something I studied and I loved so much. The job was very dynamic. I spent all of my working days in the schools, witnessing, the teaching and learning and all of the great initiatives that Mawhiba did for the gifted students, their teachers, their parents, even the school leadership. And I really witnessed how schools could transform with great leadership and great, planning and strategic initiatives. And after that, 2014, me and my other two co-founders, Dr. Munira Jamjoom and Sarah Zaini, one day we got together and we were like, feeling that, okay, we're happy in our jobs, but we're not really creating the impact that we wanted. And that's when we decided that, let's start our own company. And that's how MCAN was born, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing story. I think you've actually left out a very interesting detail about it, which we found out talking with you right before the show. But you also had a podcast, and I want to ask you about that. Tell us about the podcast that you had. And I think when everybody listening is going to hear this, they're going to immediate demand for you bringing it back. I don't know if it's in the cards now, but tell us about it.
Definitely. So back in 2000 and before starting MCAM 2013, I went through a personal experience, which was divorce. And to anyone who've been through this, or whether your parents or a family member went through this, it's not an easy experience for anyone. And I felt there was a lot of definitely grief and growth and learning out of the experience. And I had to find my own way, to get over the emotional trauma. And I felt that, alhamdulillah, I was successful, and I managed not to completely lose myself. And I felt that, I want to share that experience with the rest of the women, especially in Saudi. And back then it was 2016. Still, people are a bit shy of going to therapists and talking about their experiences or asking for help. And it's a cultural thing, I also believe, in us and Arabs and in Saudi. So me and my friend, also she went through the same experience, and we thought, we want to do something, but how can we help others? And we found ourselves getting phone calls from friends, from family members, who are going through the same experience and asking us, what do I do? How do I deal with this? Legal questions, psychological, social, the kids. And that's when we said, let's start a podcast. And we were lucky that we find the right support back then. We never have done anything related to media before, but we managed to find the right partners. And that's when we started اقلب الصفحة. It's called Turn the Page. And it was aimed at supporting divorced men and women in Saudi through bringing up real life stories from divorced men and women around Saudi. And then having guest speaker, whether it's a psychologist or someone who's been through the experience, and we talk about it, and we shared a lot of the advice and emotional support. We did that for 4 years. So we had 4 complete seasons. They're still on SoundCloud and Apple Podcast, actually, in Arabic. So again, that was something that I'm still proud of, that it was in Arabic, and it really helped us reach out to a very big sector of our society. And I think it served its purpose. For me, it was a healing process, to be honest, and a healing experience that it seemed that I needed more than anyone else to feel that I have really transformed from this human experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. It's amazing because you were early on with podcasts in general in the space, but then early in Saudi Arabia with the reforms sort of starting to happen when you were doing the show. This is a topic worth its own show, but we'll get back to education. But I just was so curious about that. Saudi Arabia spends a lot of money on education. We always talk about Saudi investment, but 18 to 20% of its budget annually goes to education. That's one of the highest in the world. And you're an expert in this space. Can you tell us about the challenges and opportunities in the broader space of education? I guess with a broad stroke for the listeners and viewers.
Yeah, definitely. So I'd like to start maybe with the opportunities. First thing is, of course, Vision 2030. When the vision was released and everyone was onboarded on it, it really had a lot of reforms and initiatives related to education, whether it was related to curriculum, special education needs, gifted students, human skills, higher education. So we saw a lot of that. And really, it opened the door to government and private entities to collaborate together, to work on such initiatives, to be able to get to reach our goals in Vision 2030. Of course, we have the technology integration. We saw how pre-COVID, schools and the government entities related to education used technology, but not religiously, if I can say. It was nice to have, but we saw that how post-COVID, everything changed, and everyone who invested in education and a good technical infrastructure, it really paid off and helped them overcome that difficult time. And of course, after that, schools never came back. Everything now is being done through technology, whether it's lessons, data collection, assessments, and now we see the integration of AI. And I know that the Ministry of Education is really putting a lot of investments into that, and soon we're going to see many initiatives related to that. What I also see is, what I've seen from our experience is the opening the market for investment. Again, the reforms that was done by Ministry of Investment, Ministry of Education, and the other supporting entities post-COVID has really opened opportunities to both global and local investors to see the opportunities in education, whether it's schools, universities, early childhood education, or special needs center. And this is what we're seeing still. In the past 3-4 years, a lot of international operators have came into the market, since Saudi is the biggest market in the GCC. There are more that would like to come, especially in the K-12 and the higher education area. So I see that's also a big opportunity. If we want to talk about the challenges, well, I can say that sometimes there is a skills mismatch. And now everything is moving towards skill-based learning. But unfortunately, we still have graduates from higher education institutes that cannot find the right jobs. And we know that in the next 10 years, we might have new jobs that even don't exist yet. So I believe that this is one of the challenges, that still the graduates are not finding the right job because there is a skills. Definitely, sometimes there is a quality gap. So we still have a gap in training teachers, and some access to opportunities, especially in remote areas or in smaller cities around Saudi. And that also definitely affects the quality of teaching and learning there. So I can say these are the two main challenges that I can see.
Thank you for kind of summarizing that for us. Actually, I think it sets the scene really well for some of the other topics that we'd really like to kind of unpack a little bit. But I think you've experienced kind of teaching inside schools, but you've also been on the consulting side. And globally, the education consulting market is huge, and it's projected to grow to 15.2 billion, or from 15.2 billion, in 2023 to 35.1 billion by 2033. So it's definitely a space, probably because of some of the tech that you've been talking about and integrating AI, but also the need for really solving some of these crucial outcomes of education. But I'd really like you to tell us a little bit about kind of how it's different from working inside an educational institution to being on the consulting side.
Well, that is the conundrum of my life. I always feel I'm an educator at heart, but being a consultant in my company, and now with my role, I feel that definitely there is a huge difference between being in school on a day-to-day basis and being a consultant. There are some similarities, definitely, in terms of the, let's say, some of the skills such as the creative problem solving or the communication skills, for example. And these are all skills that we need, I think, for all kinds of job today. But maybe let me start in a school. In a school, when maybe you can see the impact of the work you do immediately on students, on your colleagues, or on the leadership, or on the school environment. In consulting, of course, you don't do that. So you put a lot of time and effort in maybe a project, but especially even in education, the results will not show until after maybe years to come. So that's one main thing. Another thing, of course, in a school, let's say the impact of the work that you do is very limited to that school environment. The beauty of consulting that you get to work on national projects, that impact can reach really millions of students. And that's like so many of the projects that we used to do in MCAN. Definitely, of course, the school is more, let's say, localized. You get to meet with the same people and work with the same people every day. And you know exactly, it's more of operational. In consulting, it's maybe a new project every month or every couple of months. So it is exciting, yet could be a bit scary because you don't know what you're getting into. A new client, new project, where do you have to travel next? But for someone like me, I get bored very easily. So consulting was really filling in that need for a constant thrill.
So I have a question I'm going to go off piece a little bit here, but I have a question a little bit about so I'm thinking about Saudi Arabia as a nation that is, reforming, transforming pretty much everything. And as a result, it's a sort of building boom going on everywhere, Riyadh, but everywhere. There's a growing population in Saudi Arabia, not just Saudis, but expats coming to Saudi Arabia. So there's going to be a huge demand for schools. So that means that Saudi Arabia is building new schools. And what they're doing with other projects is they're sort of rethinking what's possible, like taking best practices that exist, but they don't have to deal with legacy systems when they build these, giga projects or buildings. They can kind of innovate a little bit. Is it the same for schools, like the new schools that are coming up? I mean, because in the US, like the school I went to in high school, somebody had the same locker like 50 years ago, same locker, right? And so when you're starting from scratch, it seems like a good opportunity to say, do we need lockers? My question is, as they're kind of building and developing schools in Saudi Arabia, both public and private, is it your sense that they're really looking globally to see what the best practices are, what works best for Saudi Arabia?
Definitely, there are, and there are actually very good examples. So you mentioned the Giga projects, right? And for example, the school at NEOM, we know all that NEOM is, futuristic technology, edge-cutting features and a community basically everywhere you go. And they made sure the NEOM school is like that. So actually, I know a couple of people who work there. I know the principal, and I know the things they're doing are just amazing. And it's not like any other school in Saudi. And it's a great example, to be honest. It's not the majority, but we do have these, let's say, quality educational schools that are really trying to do something different and meet the needs of the future. Well, we still have, of course, many of the schools that are still governed by the mandates and the rules of the Ministry of Education, but there is some more flexibility we see in the market. So, for example, the Royal Commission of Riyadh, to be able to support the international operators who came into the market 5 years ago, they had to have an agreement with MOE to do some, let's say, exceptions. For example, the number of Saudi teachers. We know that Saudization was one of the challenges for private and international schools in Saudi. The age of the students where they can actually be in a mixed environment, and other exceptions that really helped push the international operators in the Saudi market, especially that it was a new market for them. And again, we're seeing a lot of these reforms that are trying to take place and succeed now, and definitely we'll see much more.
I think it's really interesting because, when you think about the expansion of schools, international schools into Saudi, but you also think of kind of the locally grown legacy schools. There are, there are schools where somebody at least 20, 30 years ago did have your same locker in Saudi as well. I think it's a really interesting dynamic that's happening. And when people are, looking at it from the outside in, they're like, okay, so where do people actually go to school? Are they going to these new fancy tech schools? Are they going to the old ones? What's happening to the old ones? So what does the private-public mix kind of look like? And where are people coming in and investing? Is it in higher ed? Is it in TVET? Is it in the kind of K-12 market? Can you tell us a little bit about kind of what's changing in the landscape?
Definitely. So the first thing, of course, let's say the supply and demand of schools are coming from the parents mostly. And the parents now, the Saudi parents, are very, very well aware and educated about what they want, how the schooling of their kids should be, what type of curriculum and extracurricular activities, not like 20 or 30 years ago. So this is really driving the market, and this is what's pushing the government and the supporting entities to come up with these reform and bring in more of these K-12 international operators with very, very high standards. For example, they developed national school standards and national curriculum standards to make sure that all of the operators are operating in high quality in these areas. Now, where the investment is going, that's a very big question. We're seeing now K-12, but we believe that K-12 market has been a bit saturated, especially in Jeddah and Riyadh. But now we see a lot of higher education transformation coming in from the government, and also a couple of international universities have been offered license to operate in Saudi. Higher education was a very closed market for a long time in Saudi, but now it has opened, and we are definitely going to see big names coming into the higher education market. There is a huge demand for early childhood education, but we still don't see enough investments because there are some challenges between the mandates of early childhood education between MOE and MHRSD. And they're also working on solving that. Special needs also, there is a huge demand. It's a bit tricky because as an operating cost, it's very projects that come with high cost. But definitely that is still a big need for the parents.
So as far as investing in education, early childhood, K to 12, I'm assuming there's a lot of interest, and you sort of touched on that, to do that in Saudi Arabia. How does one do that? Like, if I'm an international school operator and I want to be in the market, do I find a partner? I mean, like, what can you describe just in vague terms, like what the journey is like for someone like that who may be discovering this, listening to this, and considering doing that?
Definitely. Of course, they can come to us directly.
Come to PWC.
Yeah, exactly. This is what we used to do at MCAN. We were introduced to many of these operators through the British Embassy, through the American Embassy, and through the other, our network. And we basically took their hands step by step. Because also 5 years ago, it wasn't like now. Now, MOE, with the support of the Ministry of Trade and Commerce, have developed a website where you can go in. It's purely for education investments. As an operator, as an investor, you go in, they show you clearly what are the steps, what do you need to issue in terms of licenses, in terms of permission, the standards of the building or the operating a center. So now everything is very, very clear. It is all automated. It is all online. And that is also the beauty of e-government services in Saudi, to be honest. So now it's definitely much easier. And there are a lot of events and conferences happening annually in Saudi, especially in Riyadh, where these operators, they go out and speak on panels about their experience, and new ones come in and share that. And definitely there's a lot of support now, not like before.
I have a question as well that's kind of related to the work that you probably did quite a bit of at MCAN, and maybe you're doing more of and now, and we'll talk about that in a second. But just this idea of doing that kind of that groundwork and the research and collating this information. So you're, very knowledgeable about where the opportunities are, kind of what sectors need to be enhanced, where the challenges are, and so on. So, can you tell us a little bit about maybe some of the interesting research projects that you've done? I know that it's consulting, so you probably can't tell us too much about all of it, but maybe some of the public reports that you've put out, and let us know kind of where that information kind of comes from, how you're collecting it, and what you're reporting on.
Of course. We were very lucky in MCAN because we were on the ground. We had a huge network of schools, school principals, parents, students, teachers, experts, locals, international. So we were able to get data directly from the source, whether it's related to any of these stakeholders. So a couple of the topics that we really did some, not research, but it was more of white papers. And we made sure that we chose the trends or topics that are really were important to the Saudi. It doesn't have to be a parent or a teacher or a student, but to the Saudi public, basically. So, for example, we published a paper, it was in both Arabic and English, about women in the workforce and how it affected the turnover of female teachers in private international schools. Apparently, we found that there is a relation, and we supported that with some studies and data, that because of the high turnover in the teachers in private international schools, the mothers are not able to have their kids in good private and international education because there is a high turnover and schools are finding it difficult to recruit qualified teachers. And that's affecting the mothers because the mothers cannot go to their work because they have to stay at home with the kids until they find a teacher in the school. And it's a bit vicious cycle, apparently. We had another also thought leadership paper about education leadership, and we called it the forgotten profession. From our experience, we believed education leaders in schools are really, really important in the success of any school, but unfortunately they weren't maybe given enough attention in those past years. We did a couple also about private education in Saudi. We did something about public-private partnerships, which is also a hot trend now in education. So, we tried to at least tackle these important subjects.
This is going to be like kind of a two-part question, and I think they're kind of related. But how do you balance, or how do you advise on balancing international best practices, with the cultural and local realities of Saudi Arabia? Like, I'm thinking about like the, hoity-toity British school, a prep school that wants to expand into the kingdom, and they have a reputation for doing things their way, but some of that's not going to work in Saudi Arabia. So, like, how do you advise clients and others, or how would you advise them on really navigating that and finding that balance?
Of course. That's a very good question. And we saw many of these projects, let's say, or initiatives that are coming from the Western world, and they failed in Saudi, not because they're not good, but because that match or that integration wasn't really planned for and implemented in the best way. So again, this is what we used to do in IMCAN. We were the local partners. My advice is always get a local partner who understands the local context, who understands who are the important stakeholders in that country, who can really tell you when there are some challenges, for example, in employment, or in finding the right tools, or even in how to recruit parents and students to the school. So all of that really is different from one community to another. UAE and Dubai, for example, is not like Riyadh. Riyadh is not like Jeddah. It's not like Eastern Province, and so on. So every city in every region has its own private local identity and let's say sensitivities that you need to be really aware of as an operator if you want your program or project or school to succeed. So I would definitely advise them of finding the right local partner and definitely doing the research about that market that they're entering.
I have a question that's, I'm going to kind of pivot a little bit, and you talked about it a little bit when we were talking about the research, but just the network that you have of people that are in education in the kingdom. You have that network, but you also are a convener, or had been a convener of that expertise through your conferences. So I think convening kind of activities are critical for the advancement of anything. You get to hear about other people's experiences, the challenges that they face with. And I think collaboration is very, very important. So I'd like to kind of understand like what you've learned through those conferences and through hosting different people and bringing them together. What are the key themes that you think are like enduring that you definitely need to revisit every year when thinking about what's happening within the education landscape?
Definitely the IMCAN School Conference was one of the closest initiatives to my heart that I've really worked on in my career life. It really taught me a lot. It really taught me the power of collaboration and partnerships. When we first started, the first one we had was 2019. It was very small. We just invited, the people who we really know that liked us and wanted to give us, some free work and free sessions. But really what we had was really very, very good intentions of helping the teachers, helping the school leaders, and providing them with this platform where they can feel that it's a safe space to share their best practices without the fear of, they will snatch my teacher, or they will steal this initiative from me, or they will take my ideas and, say that it's their own. We never had that. And to be honest, there weren't in the market back then anyone else who was doing that. And we made sure, for example, to keep it always free of charge, except I think for the last year where we had to ask for very, very minimum fees just to cover the cost. But even through COVID, we made sure that we were still there. And this is what people loved about us. And this is what really helped us grow our network and build that trust that, this company and these people, they're always going to be there. Even in the toughest time, they're going to show up and share what they know about education and what's going on in the world. Of course, as I said, the partnerships and collaboration, we were surprised of how we were able to get big names such as Cambridge International. Now, as Imkan, we were the only Saudi company associated with Cambridge International Examinations Company, but every year they were there and they were actually our knowledge partner without paying any fees. So to us, that was a huge success. We once got MEPLI, the Middle East Professional Education Institute from Harvard. And many, many other amazing global and local names, really, that I'm very proud to work with. Of course, definitely learning how to even manage a conference in Saudi. It wasn't easy. But I believe that we succeeded in providing such a unique experience for the local educators. And they're still asking for it. So hopefully now we can continue through our new company.
So the world needs a lot more teachers, and I truly admire teachers because what they do, there's no more important job. Yet to me, they always seem, at least in the United States, and I don't know how it is the scale in Saudi Arabia, but pretty much at every level of the United States, they're underpaid. And how do we meet the demand for new teachers? Is it more like, because for me, it's simple. It's like these people should be paid like more than congressmen. I mean, there's nothing more important than this, right? But that's not happening here in the US. I'm curious, like, what can be done to really meet the demand for what looks like 69 million new teachers needed by 2030 globally? That's a lot. Like, what's out there? What are you guys working on and advising on that can get us to bridge that gap?
Definitely. That's a great question. And I think that is now a challenge globally, not just in the US or Saudi. It's not just the number of teachers, it's the quality of teachers. We have seen that, unfortunately, there were some decisions that were made in the past that affected the quality of the teachers graduating from, let's say, teacher colleges for a while in Saudi. And then that's when some of the entities had to plan and provide their own teacher training programs, which they funded, just to make sure that they're covering that gap in the teacher skills. And we actually used to deliver one with the MISC Foundation, and we did also now, we're doing actually one now with the MISC schools, which is in partnership with Cambridge International. It's called the Professional Development Qualification. And there are a lot of other initiatives, but it's mostly under the government entities, such as, for example, the Ministry of Culture are working on initiatives on upskilling the teachers to be able to deliver arts and culture subjects. Ministry of Sports are working on building the capacity of teachers, of PE teachers, to be able to match the needs of the students and the demands from the ministry now. So you find so many initiatives, but again, I believe there is still a lot to be done. In terms of maybe the incentives, I can say that it's not always the pay, really. Sometimes it's the appreciation. Sometimes it's just getting that status in society, that a teacher is someone that we really appreciate and are grateful for, because basically they're helping us raise our kids and build their futures. So I think there is a lot to be done other than increasing pay.
Yeah, it's so well said. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question for you. First of all, congratulations are in order because Imkan was acquired by PWC, which is a huge milestone and a testament to the work that you've been doing over the years and all of the achievements that you've mentioned so far. So what has this transition meant for you and your team, and what does it mean for that team going forward?
It's definitely a big transition. Moving from a company that was only 30 people, we had maybe a bit of more of a family close culture, very flexible, work from home. We all knew each other. We knew, our life stories. Many of our team were with us more than 5 or 6 years. So there is a lot of loyalty to us and to the brand. And of course, there was fear, fear of the unknown, like what's going to happen? Are we still going to be the same? Will you still be there to support us after moving? And this is really what me and my other partners made sure of after we made the decision that, yes, we are moving under PWC. The first thing we did was actually talk to the team before anyone else and tell them that this is what we're planned to do and that we are with them every step of the way and that we want each and every one of them to join us in this new adventure. And I believe we succeeded in doing that. And alhamdulillah, the majority of the team have actually moved with us. And they're very happy and well integrated into the PWC culture because I think of that support and trust that we built with them throughout the years. It wasn't a one-time thing, alhamdulillah. We invested a lot in our relationship with our team. And I believe we showed up as humanistic leaders. If one of them would come and say, I'm not feeling well, my mother is sick, or my husband or my daughter. So we never judged anyone. We took it all in. We expected them to show up as whole in the workplace and not leave part of them at home when they come to work. And I'm very proud that we built their skills, and this is what they're showing up now in PWC, and hopefully they're thriving.
I have another question before I let Lucien wrap up, but what's your vision for the future of education, both in the kingdom and globally?
Well, I'll start with the kingdom. Definitely, it's promising. As I said, the amount of investments that is being done and the initiatives and all this ambitious strategic transformation will definitely pay off. And we already started seeing a lot of them, such as the one I mentioned, which is teaching the arts and culture subject, for example, in public schools. We've never dreamt of seeing that before, and now it's happening. And many others will come definitely after that. So I believe that it is transforming and it is very ambitious. Globally, I think AI is doing a lot of disruption in education globally, and we have to catch up on that. Unfortunately, educators are still way behind, and it's new. Everybody's still learning about it. But for sure, we'll have to adopt AI more courageously, if I can say, in our schools and universities to be able to catch up.
I mean, that's a subject of its own podcast, so you have to come back because we could talk only about AI and education and learn a lot from you on that. I do want to wrap up, but actually, one more question, if you don't mind. So, I went to my oldest son's parent night. He's pre-K. He's starting at a new school last night. And, I had no idea what to expect because to me, and what I grew up with, pre-K was like, hey, this is basically like daycare, right? Like, keep my kid alive, and when I come back and he's still alive, we're good, or she, right? And I was blown away by what they were doing and the sort of curriculum which they have, and I didn't know that. But they're doing so much innovation in actual teaching methods that things that kind of sound, and I was kind of laughing on the inside, wordless books to teach you reading, and a Spanish class where there is a promise that they will learn no Spanish, but they will be surrounded by Spanish. And all this stuff is kind of, innovative. Yeah. And so what else are you seeing out there that's interesting and innovative that may be on the horizon for the education space?
Oh, a lot, especially in the early childhood education. I think it's still a big arena to explore. But for example, I've seen very interesting model of environmental education, where students basically, if they do not stay in the classroom, they just study outside, for example. Of course, it's a structured environment, but again, it's environmental themed schools. That's amazing. I'm a big fan of Montessori, for example, and Montessori can be applied in different environments and in different ages, but we saw how it's important for the development of kids at that early age. So I think these are some of the initiatives that are still taking place and we're still exploring. But definitely, I think technology will have a lot to do with that. Not the kids using technology, but us as educators utilizing the technologies for our benefit.
Basma Bushnaq, co-founder, CEO of MCon Education, now part of PWC Middle East after being acquired. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Super interesting. And now we've also convinced you to come back onto podcasting with 2 more appearances on this show later to talk about subjects that we wish we could have gotten on. Thanks so much. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Basma.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.